I'm 78, and I live alone in a small one-bedroom apartment above a dentist's office on the edge of a quiet town most people pass through on the highway and never think about again. I'm telling you this because people talk about living alone like it's either tragic or brave, and for me, it's neither. It's just life, and whether it feels peaceful or miserable usually comes down to what I do inside my own four walls. I didn't live alone until I was 73. Before that, I was married for 46 years. My husband Frank wasn't a poetic man, but he was steady. He also had habits that drove me crazy in ordinary ways. We built our life the way you build a fence, one board at a time, sometimes crooked, sometimes solid, held together by routine and small forgiveness. And then he got sick. Then he got sicker. And one morning he didn't wake up. After the funeral, the house went quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful at first. It felt like something had been removed from the air. I kept catching myself listening for him. I'd pause in the kitchen, expecting his throat clearing. I'd hear a floorboard creak, and my body would turn, ready to see him. Then I'd remember and feel that strange drop in the stomach, like missing a step on the stairs. The first year alone, I made a very common mistake. I tried to fill the space. I kept the television on, even when I wasn't watching it. I said yes to every invitation because I was scared of empty hours. I created errands I didn't need, just so the day would have some shape. I let people stop by whenever they wanted, because I didn't want to seem lonely. And do you know what happened? I felt worse. I was tired all the time, and at night my mind would start running, like it had been saving up noise all day. I'd lie there thinking about the locks, the bills, my health, the future, the past, everything. Living alone didn't create those thoughts, but it gave them a bigger room to echo in. I had a neighbor then named Dottie. She was 81 and sharper than most people half her age. One day I was carrying in groceries and I dropped a bag. Cans rolled everywhere across the sidewalk, like little metal animals escaping. I stood there staring at them, and suddenly I started crying, right out in the open, like a child. Dottie came out, bent down, and started picking up cans. She handed me the bag and said, "You're tired, not broken, just tired." Then she said something I've never forgotten. Peace doesn't arrive, you set it up. That's what I want to talk about, as someone who had to learn it the hard way. Living alone with peace isn't about being strong. It's about not making your own life harder than it needs to be. It's about noticing what drains you and what steadies you, and then choosing the steady things more often. The first thing that helped me was getting control of my space. When Frank was alive, the house had been full of stuff. His tools, his magazines, extra chairs we never used, boxes we might need someday. After he died, that clutter started to feel like it was leaning toward me. So I started small. One kitchen drawer, one shelf in the hall closet. I put a box by the door that said, "Donate," and every day I tried to put one thing in it. Some days it was easy, like those plastic containers with missing lids. Some days it was heavy, like his work gloves. Sometimes I would sit down and hold something for a minute before letting it go. Not because I was being dramatic, but because I was human. Clearing didn't erase him. It gave me my own breathing room back. And once the apartment felt manageable, it stopped feeling like a burden. Peace is hard to find when you're constantly stepping around reminders that you're behind. The second thing was sound. People don't talk about this, but living alone changes how you hear things. The refrigerator hum becomes a companion. The neighbor's footsteps become a story in your head. A creak at 2 a.m. becomes a threat. At first, I tried to drown it out with constant television. I thought noise would make me feel less alone. But it was the wrong kind of noise. It kept my brain restless and my mood jumpy. It made the quiet feel sharper when I finally turned it off. So I started using sound on purpose. In the morning, I'd put on a station with gentle talk, nothing angry, nothing alarming. In the afternoon, I'd play music while I cooked, the kind that makes you feel like you're keeping yourself company instead of waiting to be saved by distraction. And at night, I turned everything off an hour before bed. No TV murmuring in the background, no doom scrolling, no late-night headlines. At first, it felt uncomfortable, like I was sitting in an empty room with my own thoughts staring back. But after a few weeks, my body stopped bracing. Quiet stopped feeling like a punishment. It became a normal background again. The third thing, this is where a lot of my peace came from, was boundaries. When you live alone, people assume your time is empty. They don't always mean harm. It's just a lazy assumption. She's home anyway. My daughter would call and say, "I'm in the area, I'll stop by," like she was doing me a favor. Sometimes it was fine. Sometimes I was in my robe, hair a mess, halfway through eating, and I didn't want my day rearranged without warning. Neighbors would knock and ask for small favors that turned into bigger ones. Someone would borrow something and then stand in my doorway talking while my food went cold. I used to say yes because I didn't want to be that old woman who's difficult. But one afternoon, I had a plumber coming with one of those vague windows between 1 and 4. I'd been waiting all day. At 3:30, my niece showed up unannounced with her boyfriend and a dog they were trying out from the shelter. The dog ran circles in my living room and knocked over a plant, and my niece kept saying, "Isn't he adorable?" while I was trying to keep the dog from chewing my rug. Then the plumber arrived, and suddenly my small apartment had strangers, chaos, muddy boots, and my heart beating too fast. I felt trapped in my own home. After they left, I sat down and realized I'd been letting other people decide what my day felt like. I'd been treating my home like a public space. And if you do that while living alone, you don't get peace. You get exhaustion. So I started saying simple, clean sentences. Today isn't good for visitors, but Saturday is. I can't do that, but I hope you find someone. I'm resting right now. Can we talk tomorrow? I didn't explain for 10 minutes. I didn't apologize until I sounded weak. I just said it kindly and held the line. I felt guilty at first, but the people who respect you stay. The people who only wanted access to you get irritated, and that tells you what you need to know. Peace isn't just a feeling, it's protection. The fourth thing was routine. When you live alone, days can blur, weekends can disappear, and when time feels shapeless, your worry starts filling the empty space. I used to wake up and check my phone immediately. Bad habit. One headline or one message could send my heart racing before my feet even touched the floor. So I stopped doing that. Now most mornings I make tea, sit by the window, and look at something real. Trees, sunlight, people walking to their cars, life moving without my permission. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just reminding myself I'm here. It's morning, and I don't need to start the day in panic. Then I do one small task that makes the apartment feel cared for. Wipe the counter, fold a blanket, water a plant. It's a quiet signal to my brain. We're okay. We're not falling apart. After that, I try to leave the apartment most days, even if it's just a short walk or the library. If I wait until I feel like it, I won't go. Movement keeps the mind from folding inward. And the last thing I learned was how to handle nighttime worry without wrestling it for hours. I used to think worry meant I was responsible. Like if I kept running everything through my head, I could prevent bad outcomes. But alone, worry multiplies. It doesn't stay reasonable. One night I heard a thump in the kitchen and stood frozen in the hallway with my phone, convinced something was wrong. I didn't want to call anyone and sound foolish. I didn't want to walk in there. I stood there until my knees started aching. Finally, I turned on the light and found the culprit. A bag of potatoes had shifted and rolled off the counter. Potatoes, that's all. But my body didn't calm down just because it was harmless. Fear doesn't work like that. So I started doing two practical things. First, before bed, I write down what I'm worried about. Not a diary, just a small list. Then I write one action if there is one. Call mechanic Tuesday. Pay bill Friday. If there's no action, I write, not solvable tonight. That line helps more than you'd think. It gives the mind permission to stop chewing on the same thought. Second, I set up small safety comforts. Nightlight in the hall. Flashlight by the bed. Locks checked once at the same time every evening, so I'm not checking them again at midnight. And I stopped feeding my brain things that make it spiral. No scary shows late at night. No news in bed. That's not discipline. That's just knowing what rattles you and not poking it on purpose. I'm not saying I have it all perfected. Some evenings I still feel that ache when I see couples walking into restaurants. Some days I cancel plans and sit in the quiet and feel sorry for myself. I still talk out loud sometimes, just to hear a voice. I'm still human. But my home feels like mine now, not like a waiting room, not like a place I'm stuck. Peace for me isn't a big emotion. It's the absence of unnecessary strain. It's eating lunch while it's still warm. It's closing my door and knowing I can. It's not bracing when the phone rings. It's having a day that belongs to me, even if it's small. If you're living alone, or you might be soon, I won't tell you it's easy. But it is possible to make it gentler. Start with the practical things. Your space, your sound, your boundaries, your routine, and what you do with worry after dark. And if this hit close to home, and you want to share what you're dealing with, you can. I read more than people think. Anyway, it's late afternoon here. The parking lot is quieting down, shadows stretching longer. And in a minute, I'll make something simple for dinner. Probably eggs again, because eggs don't argue with you. I'll wash the dishes right away. not because I'm perfect, but because I like waking up to a clean sink. Then I'll turn on a lamp, not the overhead light, and sit by the window for a bit, and let the day end the way it ends. Calm, ordinary, still human.